Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Ed Talk TV, Conversations Worth Having. If this is your first time joining, welcome. Even if you've been here before, I still want to welcome you as well. But for those who are new, this is a business talk show. We talk about business, tech, the user experience. Honestly, you just never know what you're going to get when we go live because we start with one topic and we just drop the knowledge like crazy in here. Not just me, but you guys too. You right there that's watching. Yeah, I see you. You're the one who's going to be dropping some awesome knowledge in the comments. And maybe soon you'll become a guest here on the show, which will be awesome. I'm going to go ahead and take a look to make sure everything's looking good on Facebook. You guys can share this at any point in time. Don't forget. And you can also say hello to me and everyone else in the comments. So be sure you're doing that. I'm going to just make sure we are live and looking good here. And it's always a good thing to test this when you're doing it all on your own. You want to make sure that you go in and you test things and that you can see. I'm using my computer, so I'm using a third-party program called Ecamm. Hey, Lindsay. So I have to look down at my phone, or I can have it on the computer, but I prefer having it on the phone so that way I can make sure things are going good there. And I'm going to move this guy down just a little bit there. So that's the cool thing about it. Hey, Paula, welcome. Anyway, today we are going to cover what's your plan, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive a little deep. We are going to dive deep into it, but there's going to be some moments where it's kind of, So I just want to make sure everything looks good. You'll notice that I did a little something different in the title of this for those who are regulars. I actually put a link in the post itself. And now that link, hey Paula, happy Thursday to you. In that link, don't go there now because you'll lose me and that's not what we want to do. But I put in the post this time because I'm curious how it will play out. And it's right there so it's not lost in the comments. So I'm just testing. I'd like to share that with you guys so you know. That link, hey Erica, welcome. That link actually is what's called a bit.ly link. And it's very popular service. The reason why is because you can add links to that service and then you can see information on those links, like how many people clicked those links. So it helps versus just sharing a random link and not knowing if people actually clicked it or not. So food for thought. See, I told you don't know what you're going to get when you come on this show. That's why you just show up and you wait to see what gets delivered. And then in the meantime, you engage. Bum, 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 bum. Those are my 3 core values if you're new. Show up, deliver, and engage. So that is what we're going to talk about today. But first, where's Mickey? Because we're going to be doing our random news, and she loves this. For those who are new, you can check out later the link in the post. I titled it Resources. That link will actually give you a bunch of different things. You know what? I should probably show you what that looks like because it's actually a different program I'm using too. So why not? We'll do that before we go to random news. Let me go ahead and pull that up because I didn't think to pull that up for you guys. I was like, yeah, we'll just run with it and just have that there. But of course, now I actually have to go get the link because I changed it. There we go. Another fun fact: when you go live, have a little note. If you're using your computer, have a little notepad present, so then that way you can actually just quickly pull things off. All right, so let me switch my screen over here. And let me just make sure I go to the right one. Oops, I gotta actually click. See, you gotta click on the right program. I was in another tab. Okay, so that link will take you to resources. Check this out. We won't go too far into this, but I'm testing out this this kind of like landing page program called Graham.click. Something different. I'm liking this. It's super clean. And I'm just testing it out. So you can see all of my information right there. If you're not a Hey Ed member and you're kind of like, what? I want to know what this is. Awesome community where you get schooled in business and tech. And I wake up every day so thankful for this community and for all the things that are in it and where we're going to go with it. It's just awesome. Curious about working with me? There you go. You can learn from me for free, so you can find things on the blog. You can find different courses that I offer, including free ones, all kinds of stuff, podcast episodes, all of that. Ed Talk TV is right here where you're at, but this also takes you to guest request form. So if you want to become a guest, you can. It's free. And it will also have equipment that I use on this page, as well as training. If anybody's looking to have some training, I have an option on there that's really popular and affordable. And then my other business, which is Stupid Easy, that allows you to create your online courses without having to be a techie. Yeah. And that's just who I am right there. So, colorful and clean, right, Erica? Yeah, it's something different, something new, testing it out. I'll report back, I'm sure here on the show and into the community about more about this, but just giving you guys a quick look there. While we're here, let's take a look at random news. Now, I'm a fan of Trader Joe's, but I will say I have never really been a fan of kale. And while I have tried the Trader Joe's kale once before, it was just not my thing. And it's definitely not my thing when there's something extra. I'll get my protein from throwing in a chicken patty or some ground beef, but I'm good on the lizard thing. The lizard can, stay in outside my bag. So anyway, that's our random news, part of our random news for that. See, another reason to avoid kale. Exactly. That, if you needed a reason to stay away from the greens, here is your reason. You don't know what you're going to find in your bag. Paula's like, no. Yeah, that happened. So, that's pretty nasty. Now, there is something on the bright side, not tied to this at all, but part of random news. We're going to switch over to another one. Have you guys seen this new feature on Facebook? Another new feature. I know. How many more can we get? I specifically went to a local newspaper page, but this will show up in your normal news feed. I just didn't want to go through and scroll through all my news feed just to get to here, so I wanted to show it to you directly. But have you guys been seeing this pop up yet? This little eye? This is a new feature that's popping up, and as you can imagine, probably, the lowercase I like this stands for information, and then when you hover over it, check this out. Show more information about this article. Now, before I even click on this and go any further, why do you think that this is showing up? And why do you think it's important? Any takers on that one? Because this is something that just rolled out on Tuesday and is going through different accounts. So you may not have it yet, but it is showing up and going on different accounts there. So keep that in mind. The reason why is because when you click on this, it will show you more information about the publisher of that article. So in this case, it's a newspaper, where it's at, a little bit more information, and other stories from this publication. Now you're probably like, well, that's cool, but why? Well, Facebook's trying to cut down on the fake news. And this is part of the plan to help that. And actually, just at first look, I think this is cool. This is interesting. It makes it so it's clearly visible that there's some kind of a mark here to show authority besides it just being on a on a page. And then when you click on it, you can actually get some more information. So it is helpful for that, and it should help you in determining what fake news is. Again, this just rolled out, so I don't know, how accurate it is. If accounts can just figure out a way to put that on anything. I mean, who knows? We'll figure it out soon, I'm sure. But the effort is nice, and it is cool to have that. So then that way, all of us can be more aware of the news that we're sharing and know that it's real versus fake. So just something to think about there for that part. So that's kind of your random news there. Now, when it comes to what's your plan, I actually wanted to share this quote because it ties in, actually. Quote, "A goal without a plan is only a wish." And I'm going to pop that into the comments for you right now. I'm going to tweet that first because I had it open in a little box there. And then I'm going to pop it in the comments for you. So, there's that. And why is it important to know what's your plan? I mean, you hear that, but do you really have a plan? And we're going to talk a little bit about, those options and what's there. Hey, Whitney, welcome. And it's one of those, Whitney, you missed our random news with the lizard in the kale. So if you needed a reason not to eat your greens, now you have one. Unless you want the lizard, then it comes in the kale bag. From Trader Joe's, somebody had posted that. But it's one of those things that, we talked about this the other day on the show. First off, yesterday, if you guys missed yesterday's episode, wasn't that, if you missed it, then you couldn't say one way or another. Hey, Paula, that Facebook is also adding buttons at the top of the screen to make it easier to change access to apps. Oh, yeah, Paula, yeah. They are just Facebook's trying to clean up their mess quick. And we talked about this not too long ago. And we'll get to that in a second. I know I told you it was going to be all over the place. Real quick to finish yesterday's thought. If you weren't here yesterday, check the blog afterwards because it was awesome episode. We were on fire, all of us. Comments, guests, everyone. We had a guest on, Kate, who helped us out with email marketing. It was so much fun. And I am very excited to share with you guys that one of my near and dear friends, Debbie, who popped in yesterday on the comments, she's actually going to be a guest on the show to help us with a follow-up to email marketing and talk more about the nitty gritty in terms of the tech part of stuff. And you will not want to miss that. So definitely keep an eye out for that because it's going to blow your socks off. And I'll already tell you right now, I think it's a Friday coming up in this month. I can't remember on the calendar date, but keep that in mind. So I'm super excited. But if you, we were talking about yesterday's episode, which was really awesome and all that stuff. So anyway, we were talking about that, and then the last few times on the show, we've talked about, basically how you have to do your job. You can't just show up and set up in a good location, whether online or in person, and think that's all you have to do. Okay, I built it. They will come. I opened the doors. We're good. That. I created a cool flyer in Canva. I mean, I did it myself, and it looks all right. I posted it at the library. I tweeted it. I did an Instagram story on it. I snapped it. I don't have any Snapchat friends, but I snapped it. That. Those are good efforts, and those are part of your plan to get your business known and out there. But what's the bigger picture? And more importantly, what's the backup plan? How else can you do these things? And we're going to use a real life example. Now, some of you, maybe most of you have heard the news that there was a shooting at YouTube headquarters. I think it was 2 days ago now, which is actually where I used to live down in San Bruno area. And it's one of those things, when somebody told me about it, the shooting part, it was wait, what? And then the reasoning behind it I was like, what? What are you talking about? No, somebody didn't do that. And so for those who don't know, I'll just kind of summarize real quick, but you can research this later. It was a person who was running her business through YouTube and felt that she was being discriminated against and that YouTube was blocking her content or at least not allowing it to be seen as much. Algorithm changes, just like Facebook, I'm sure. And it was hurting her business. And things escalated from there. And that's what happened at the headquarters there. And it's one of those things where you just, we've talked about this part on the show in terms of you're building a business online. And your only thing that technically is yours is your website. Everything else, all these social media channels, they're just bonuses. And we have to remember that they're free, bonuses, they're free platforms that we don't pay rent on, and they allow us to share what we have to offer. And it's one of those things that we have to remember that Facebook doesn't owe us anything. YouTube doesn't owe us anything. Snapchat doesn't owe us anything. Like, these are companies that, yes, we love some of them, all of them, whatever. And yes, we're on them all the time. We feel invested in them. We feel like it's our second home because that's where we connect with people. That's where we do business. That's where our life is. But at the end of the day, it's still not ours. It's still not our own place. It's a rented place. And we have to remember that. And we have to understand that there are going to be changes for everybody, not just based on our content or what we do, but there's going to be changes that are out of our control. And so we have to know, like, what's our plan? What's the backup? What else are we doing in efforts to get our business out there, to be relevant, to stay in the know? You know, it's just like personal development. You have to have personal development time where you go and do your research. You listen to podcasts, you watch videos, you read books, you take notes in classes, you go to workshops. Keyword, you. And that's what you're doing. It's the same thing with online. You create these videos, you create these products, you create these services. You go ahead and post them and share them out on social media. But you can't rely on that social media platform to have your back. I mean, you can't. If they do, great, like that's bonus, but you can't rely on that. And especially if you rely on just one. Now, I don't know the whole story, you know, in terms of the YouTube thing, if she had other places that she would put the videos and stuff, but it sounded like it was primarily YouTube. So the point is that when you are choosing these platforms to use and engaging with your audience and potential target market, you need to make sure that that's your go-to, but also what's the plan for something else? Like, what happens, you know, for instance, if you build your business here on Facebook, what happens if the algorithm changes, like it has, and you see all your views go down? Well, what are you going to do next? Because you can't change that. You can complain. You can provide feedback, right? Because we're all about feedback, and you can hope that something's going to change. But in the meantime, what's your plan? Because you still have a business to run. You still have something that you need to do. So now you got to figure out, okay, maybe I still keep pushing out my efforts on Facebook because that's where my main business runs, but I'm going to start thinking about Instagram, or I'm going to start thinking about YouTube or Snapchat. Even if they're not like at all of interest to you right now, you still have to think about these things and think about like what do you do next? Like, where do you go next? And it's one of those things, like, because we know pretty much Facebook's not going anywhere, or YouTube, or Twitter, Snapchat. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. And so you have to think, okay, I may not be on those platforms, or I may not be building stuff on those platforms as much as I am on whatever platform you're mainly on, but you still should have part of your plan to explore those options, to kind of test. You know, I'll give you an example for myself. I primarily am on Facebook. Yes, I dabble in all the other social platforms, and I'm on most of them pretty regularly, but I don't use them the same that I use Facebook. Now, that's good and bad, right? Because if something happens with my Facebook, well, I'm pretty much screwed. Because yes, I have presence on the other ones, but it's not the same as here. And so part of my plan is to slowly step up my Instagram game. I don't really personally care for Instagram that whole lot because there's a lot of fake accounts and bots and things on there and spam. So it's kind of depressing for me. But I know that if I had a plan that's workable, that's manageable for me, then I can do Facebook and Instagram and really kind of have a good groove, right? So it's really finding your groove, figuring out what can you handle, where can you handle it, what are the people of that area doing, what do they need, because Instagram followers are going to want something different than Facebook followers. Same with YouTube followers, same with Twitter, Snapchat, all of that. So you have to explore, you have to test, but you also have to have the time, right? That's one of the things that's hard for us, is that as a business owner, we don't have a whole lot of time because we're doing things for the business, in the business, around the business. And we're like, well, social media, I'll just go hire somebody if I have to, or I just won't worry about that right now. But that's not the smartest option. You want to make sure that it's you starting your presence. And I mean, depending on your business, I'd almost say that you are the one that needs to be the social media person. I will tell you from the limited experience that I had in terms of literally posting for others early on in my business, social media can be a very personal thing. And when you outsource that, again, depending on your content, depending on your business, but when you outsource that, it can be very hard to connect as a follower if I don't feel you present. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean. Like, you can see why I go live on Facebook and why I'm doing more Facebook lives everywhere, because you can see me. You can feel the energy. You can see the authenticity, right? It's not just a fancy blog post image that looks great. It's not just a well-written post or a really cool quote. It's me, like just me, right? So that's the whole thing about getting comfortable with going live and showing up and not worrying about anything else besides delivering. And of course, when the time's right, then you engage, which is the most important part. But the first two is what you really need to focus on, and having that plan is really crucial for your success, because you have to think about, what are you doing now? How can you fine tune that? And then from there, what are the other alternative routes? Think of it like Google Maps, whatever kind of map app you have, right? So if you pull up Maps on your phone, don't do it now, but you can do it later. Pull up Maps on your phone, put in an address, and see what routes it gives you. Chances are it's going to give you 2 or 3 routes total, meaning that you'll have your route that you think you should take, but then there's probably 2 other routes, similar time frames, maybe one a little bit slower than the other, but there'll be multiple routes. That's what you want to think about for your plan. You want to think about, okay, if I'm this red pin here, and I need to get to I think it's green pin to red pin. So if you're the green pin here, and you want to get to the red pin over here, trying to get it in the camera there. So green pin, red pin, then you have to figure out, I know my destination, and now which route am I going to go? So if you take the quickest route, what's your alternative route? Because you're going to need it at some point. Chances are you're going to need it at some point. And what different social media platforms can help you get out there and to share that info. When I first started with live broadcasting, early days, it was Periscope. And I did build a decent following on there, which I actually haven't Periscoped in a long time. but it's on my mind more and more. And I do like the idea of being on Periscope and Facebook Live. Any reason why? Can you think of a reason why? For me, I like it because Periscope seems more like a, I don't know if free for all is the right word, but it's more like a concert, right? You don't know who you're going to run into. You're going to be surrounded by all of these people that you have most of the time no clue who they are. So it's more fair game to meet new people versus Facebook, which still has that opportunity, of course, but it's more like a house party where chances are you know somebody who knows somebody. It's like, hey, what's happening, Whitney? What's going down? Oh, you met Paula? Paula, this is Whitney. Like, we're great friends. Like, come on, right? Yeah, Whitney, great point. Too many trolls on Periscope. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I was going to say is I like the main ideas. See how I separated it? Periscope, open, kind of like a concert. You never know what you're going to get. Facebook Live, a little bit more closed, like a Facebook party, like a house party, and you feel good because you know people, which is why it's awesome to be here. Erica says, I think that's why I decided not to use Instagram Live too. It's kind of like that. Yeah, see, that's cool to know because I haven't done Instagram Live, although I will be soon. I just got asked to be on a Instagram Live, be a guest on someone's Instagram Live, so you guys stay tuned. That will be coming up next week. In fact, next Wednesday we'll cut the show a little early because I got to be there at 5 o'clock. But it's one of those things where Periscope has what we call trolls a lot more. Facebook does as well. You just don't see them as much. I don't really know the reason behind that. I couldn't tell you. But Periscope and, as Erica said, Instagram, which I can see Instagram having a ton because just of the followings that I know in general of how things work. But having those two live streaming platforms, that's the hard part, is that it can be very uncomfortable, especially if you're just starting out, because of those trolls. And people are just saying crap to get your attention. They're just going to pop in and do all that stuff. Paula says, I'm a Facebook girl too, but I used to love but I love a good house party. Exactly. I do too. And that's the thing. I like to be around people that I know, like you guys, because it makes it fun and it takes the pressure off and it makes you feel more comfortable. You're like, I got this. Like if I mess up, Erica knows what's happening. She's like, typical Ed, whereas if you're like on Periscope or Instagram Live and you mess up or something, you may be like, oh, okay, well, it's whatever. And then you get this troll that's like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, why are you here? Right? Stuff like that. Or actually, I've seen this happen on Facebook Lives for people. There's some weird thing about couches. I don't really know what this whole thing is, but I have seen on some large Facebook Lives where there'll be people that come in and they talk about couches. I don't get it. They'll ask like what kind of couches in the background, if somebody has a couch there, and then they start talking about selling the couch. It's really, to me, it's really weird. I don't understand like how the couch thing got started. But of course, we're in the day and age where we have snorting a condom. That was in Random News the other day that teens are snorting condoms. So it's very odd. I don't get it. Erica says, I dabbled in both Facebook and Instagram Live. Facebook feels more serious, for lack of a better word. Yeah, it does. More professional, for sure. Like the work you're putting out there is better received. That's really good good feedback to know. And I like I said, I kind of feel like I'm being pulled a little bit towards Periscope to pop in there and just say hello and kind of start going with it a little bit to see what happens. Just because, to just see. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, do I really want to deal with the trolls? Do I really want to, I feel like at some point Periscope had kind of cut my views. I don't know why, but for some reason it just feels like every time I went live over there, towards the end of my consistency, it felt like nobody was showing up, and not because of the content, but I think they just didn't get the notices or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. So anyway, you kind of just have to plan it out, because you want to make sure that you have these alternate routes, and knowing this feedback, and asking people, and watching. That's the big one, is watching what happens. Just be an observer. If you're already on Instagram and you're scrolling through your news feed, and somebody pops on live at the top in the little circles, well, click on it and see what happens. Watch it for a few seconds. I mean, what else are you going to do? Sit there and just keep going through your lists real quick? You might as well click on a live and just see who's in there and how it's going. Same thing with a Periscope. If you've never Periscoped, or you're curious about it, go check it out. See what's happening. Just know that when you go live, it's one of those things that you, especially when you're starting out, you really should only focus on just the show up and deliver part. Then once you're comfortable, start the engagement. And I don't just mean just engaging with people in the comments and that are actually giving you good vibes, but like everyone, so like if the trolls come, don't engage in that stuff. Like try to avoid that and don't pay attention to that. Erica says, with Periscope, I do like that your legit followers can help block or flag. Yeah, I remember when they first started adding that option, and that really helped cut down on things for it. And it's just interesting. It's interesting when you see things. And notice that I keep bringing up testing. Like, for instance, this post. I am testing with the link in the actual post, which, if you think about it, most of the time everyone says don't add a link in the post anymore, because Facebook will not prioritize but they'll push your post down if you add a link in your post, which, okay, I get it. So let's break that down for a second, because there's kind of two sides there. From Facebook's standpoint of you posting a link in your post, I can see why they don't like that, because when somebody clicks that link, chances are they're leaving Facebook. Legit, I get it. Totally get it. However, since it's a social media platform that wants to connect people more and encourages you to share quality content, hopefully, by putting out the message of don't put the link in the post, it's kind of like, wait, what? And if you have to say that it's in the comments, it's just weird to me. I don't know. Maybe I have issues with restrictions. Maybe that's what I'm trying to deal with is not being so restricted. Because like a lot of Facebook groups, which I get, there's rules. You have to have rules for some of them, but some of them are just, there's so many rules and so many don't do this, don't do that I'm like, well, why am I even here? Like, I don't even know if I can ask my question without getting in trouble. I mean, legit, you guys, that will happen, which is why I'm not as active as I used to be in some of these groups, because I know where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of service, providing value, but I worry about if they're going to look at that post and be like, no, that didn't you read the rules? Like, no, one more time and you're out. I don't want to deal with that. I want to be able to pick the group that I'm in and be like, this is a good resource. Let me share it with you, and then go, right? You guys know who are in the Hey Ed community, like that's just how I roll. And I don't know. I know, like, especially the more people you have in a group, the more you have to kind of, structure it and things. That's fine. But there also comes a point, and it just depends on your business. It really does. But it really comes down to remembering your user experience, remembering the customer, and understanding that chances are most people who are in your large Facebook group are also in a lot of other groups. And they're working. I'm using myself as an example. If I'm in multiple Facebook groups because I want to learn and I want to share and all of that, but I'm also working, and then when something comes to mind, I know I'm like, oh, I want to quickly share this with so-and-so. And then I go there, I'm not going to sit there and read the rules again before posting. I don't want to make time for that. I just want to post, share it out. If it helps people, cool. If not, no worries. But I also don't want to sit there and think, am I going to get in trouble for this? So it's definitely case by case, but the point is like you have to know who your audience is. You have to know really what the plan is and what do you want to get out of it, and are you allowing people to grow within that community if that's what you have there. And so when we talk about these different platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all of that, we have to remember that yes, we want to focus on the main one because that helps us stay on track and it doesn't feel like it's too overwhelming because we got to be on all these different platforms. So you want to make sure that you focus on one, but you also want to make sure that you have a plan for having a presence elsewhere, just in case things don't work out the way you hope on the current one. And then that way you also are slowly building a following over time on the other ones. Because again, we don't know what's going to happen and we don't own this space. It's all rented space. And so we just have to be careful and understand that there's algorithms. There's people aren't going to see things. So then we have to educate first ourselves, right? And then we have to educate our audience. So that way, if there is a change, for instance, on Facebook, we have the newsfeed algorithm change. Let's say you're a business page, and we'll use Whitney, because I see Whitney's got her business page. I'm going to go back to an old comment and put this up. So we got Whitney's business page, right? So let's say Whitney is starting to bust out all these Facebook Live videos, and she was like she's like, I got 100 hits. It's been awesome. And then there's a change, and it's like maybe 10 hits. Well, you obviously want to think about, you will typically think about, okay, is it my content? Is it my title? Is it the length of time I'm going live? Like, all these things will be a factor, of course, but you have to remember that Facebook also has this algorithm thing going on, and that may have just kicked in for your page. So then you have to think, okay, I can't change the algorithm, but what can I do? Well, you obviously would first know how people get your content, meaning they have to like and follow your page, and then turn on see first. So now that you, the owner, the business owner, knows that, then you start educating your audience, the people that are already paying attention to you, that have liked and everything. What did I do wrong, right, Whitney? Your business page was there. I had Erica's there too. I figured I would just give you some love there. And so then you start educating people within your live broadcasts. Say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. This is awesome. You've obviously found me somehow here on Facebook. I'm totally making this up, so it's a little all over the place. But basically, you're going to be like, I appreciate it if you liked my page, but I also want to remind you, don't forget to click on that follow button and then see first, because that way you'll actually get to see my content. Because you know how Facebook is. Facebook's always trying to block us and just, it's trying to be that friend that's like, oh, and then, while you're still trying to finish a conversation. So, you kind of have to play with it and just test it out. And that could be, you speaking and telling them. You could have a video. You could show them an image. It doesn't matter. But you want to make sure that you start to educate people. So then that way they know how they can keep up with you. Same type of thing when you're like, hey, you like what I'm bringing to the table? Join my email list. That way we can stay in contact. Like we said yesterday, I'm trying to get better on the whole email marketing for myself, because I can do it for others, but you know how it is. When it comes to you, you slack on it. Um, but it's one of those things that you just test out and you realize, okay, I need to know what I want first. What's the plan? And then that will help you figure out the backup plan. And then in between, you can know what you need to know, and then you can share it with your audience and start getting them to understand, like, this is how you're going to see it. And then also think about what else can you do with the content that you're sharing on that main platform. Can you share that elsewhere? Like Erica knows, I've seen her do some repurposing, which has been awesome. And it's what you need to be thinking about, because it's very important to keep a presence up in different areas. It doesn't mean you have to be there 24/7. You pick the one that you want to invest in the most, but know that if things hit the fan, you gotta have, your alternative routes there. Hey, Mindy, sliding in at the last minute. I know, no worries. So that's really what I have for you today. It's really just coming down to, I know it's a little early, but it's one of those things that I just, from that incident and from what I've seen, and I'm telling this to you, but I'm also telling it to myself too, is that it's one of those things that you really just have to remind ourselves. We have to remind ourselves, because we do get comfortable in one platform because it feels good and we're used to it. And that's not to say to jump ship or anything. That's just to remind us that, yes, we do need to have a plan. Yes, we need to be proactive, and we need to figure out what can we do next, because we can't blame anybody else really for things not working out for us in our business, because it still falls on us, right? I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the whole Facebook, I want to say leaking, but the whole Facebook, you know what I'm talking about, privacy stuff. Jeez, the privacy thing. I'm trying to figure out my pain points right now. Oh, perfect. Yeah, Mindy, exactly. See, and that's good. Post-its all over the place. Just do it. Post-its. And when it comes to like this whole privacy thing from Facebook, a friend asked me about this yesterday. Actually, that's probably the example I want to talk about next. So breach. Thank you, Erica. So with the whole Facebook breach and all of that. So, maybe I just don't understand like deep information in there. I mean, I think I do, but maybe there's something I'm missing. But when it comes to, so the friend, let me just start there. The friend that I met with yesterday, he had asked me what I thought about the whole Facebook thing, if I was leaving Facebook. And I was like, no. Like, why would I leave Facebook? I'm comfortable there. I got friends there. I run my business there. Like, no. And then I went on to say my piece about the Facebook thing is that, yes, as a business, they have a responsibility. That they have a responsibility to its customers. Even though we're free for the most part, we're still customers, right? And so they still have their requirements, see you guys, it's getting late in the day and my brain's just like fried because it's been a real busy day. But they have their message to their customers that they need to follow through on. So that, yes, hold them accountable. Yes, they need to figure that out. And yes, something went wrong and they need to fix it. And mistakes are going to happen. And maybe there's some other stuff, that is going on that just needs to stop. So I get that. That's one part. And so we can blame them for that part from a business standpoint, like you just didn't hold up your end of the bargain. But what I think is interesting and funny is that there's so many people saying, hashtag delete Facebook, or are you leaving? I'm ready to bounce and all this. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's your opinion. And I mean, you can do that. But if you're running your business through Facebook, I don't know if you're going to actually do that. It's nice to be part of that, talking about that and stuff, but are you really going, is that your plan? And for me, it also comes up with, so they had the business part that they had made a mistake. I get that. But we have to remember that we are the ones that signed up, and that we are the ones that gave the information, and that we are the ones that are saying yes to these apps to connect with. Now, of course, there can be a bigger picture there, meaning that there's not clear privacy policies, there's not a clear, dummy version for all of us, because we're not going to sit there and go through the fine print. Yes, those are all reasonable arguments, and those are all things that should be looked at for sure. But when it comes down to who's to blame, I don't know, there's really only two things that you can blame, and they tie into those parties, meaning you blame Facebook for their business misrepresentation. Basically, they had told us that they were doing something, and then they didn't. So that's the blame for them on that part. Then there's the blame on us for providing the information. So, and if it's information that is like, your name and your email address, I mean, I don't know it's already out there, so who cares, right? If it's your credit card and things like that, then obviously that's different. But I don't know. This is, like I said, this is a business talk show, so we just talk and we just share it out, what's on our mind. But and you guys can share on the comments and the replay as well. But we just have to remember that. We have to remember that it's rented space. They have a business model, and they have their mission and everything, and we can only put the blame on them for certain things and not holding up their end of the bargain. But then we have to remember that we still play a part in that. We're still part of that equation, and we just have to roll with that. Speaking of rolling with it, since we still have time, I'll tie this in too, because this was part of what's my plan. So real life example, my car had the check engine light come on last weekend, and it was actually a couple days after getting the oil changed, and I was like, I don't really want to pour money into my car because it's old. Thankfully it still runs, so we're good. But I was like, man, okay. So my plan was to go figure out what the light could be. Now, as we know from the other day, I am definitely not a mechanic. I'm tech, but not that kind of tech. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to call around, see what auto shops are available, see what they're going to charge, blah, blah, blah. Then I realized I could go to AutoZone and get this little remote thing that you pop in to the car, and it will read what the error message is, and then it tells you. It's like super weird old technology, but it works. And so it said that there was some like emissions filter that was acting up, basically that the emissions weren't going through the filter. And I was like, okay, cool. So now I have a starting point. So then I call the auto body shops or the mechanics to find out what options are available based off of the information I found. And of course, their diagnostics would be, well, the part by itself could be like $259 or whatever, the part plus labor, which I'm like, no. And then that may not even be the solution, and we would recommend you having us run some tests, which are going to be like $130, and I'm like, you got to be flipping kidding me. Like, I'm not trying to spend over $100, let alone $500 to have this thing checked. Like, come on, really? And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna ask my friend who knows cars, works on cars and all that. I said, listen, I got this part number, and this needs to be done. What do you think? Is this something you want to work on? Can you do this? Like, what are we talking here? So he was like, well, you know what? Let's just come down and we'll take a look and see what's going on before we order the part. It's like, okay, cool. And as some of you guys know from yesterday, we mentioned this. We get down there, or I get down there. I took the dogs and get down there and have them look around. And of course, I don't know what to look for in the engine in terms of this check engine light and that, because I don't spend time in the engine. Like, that's not my zone of genius, right? So after a couple minutes of him poking around and looking at things and and figuring out what may or may not be working, he discovers this hose that is just flapping by itself. I mean, it wasn't flapping because there's no air, but you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't connected. And I was like, son of a gun. Is that what it's probably saying? Because I mean, who knew, you know, like I don't hang out in the engine. So plugged it back in, disconnected the battery, because you can do one of two things. You can disconnect the battery to reset basically, or you can just drive it around a little bit because it was part of the emissions, so it had to like flow through it before the light would go off. So I was like, well, let's save some time here and just get it done. So let's unhook the battery, pop it back on. Boom! No check engine lights. That's how it's done. That's part of that plan, right? It was that simple thing, and I feel dumb saying it, but whatever, it's fine. I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And you have to ask in order to be able to figure out what's the next step. And thankfully, he knew what to look for because he's an expert, even though he doesn't consider himself an expert mechanic or anything like that. In my world, he's the expert because he knows what he's looking for, or he knows how to look around an engine and work with parts and get down and dirty in the actual car world, right? So for me, he's the expert. Now, he doesn't consider himself whatsoever close to an expert in terms of, you know, what you're probably thinking of an expert. But he is. And by asking him, I just saved well over $300 because it took 10 minutes of his time, and my time, of course, to find out that it was a hose that didn't get plugged back in together. That's it. That's all it was. So when it comes to, for that, sorry, I'm looking at the comments. A lot of those parts stores will run a check for you. Yeah, exactly, Mindy. Yeah, that's good to know. So the AutoZone, it was free to have that checked with the little thingy that goes in. But the mechanics want to run their own test, and that's where they want to charge you for it. And I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to drop a ton of money up in here, because the way I look at the money part now is, while my car still runs, it's like every time something goes over $200, $300, I'm like, that's a car payment. Not that I want car payments, but that's for 1 month car payment. That's 2 month car payment. You know, like, that's how my brain thinks. And you know, you don't want to put money into something that may not last for a long time. Thankfully, it's a Toyota, so it probably will run forever. But that's just the thing. Hey, Destiny. Mindy says, yes, especially the dealers such a racket. Yeah, exactly, Mindy. Dealers, that's why I didn't even go to the dealer. But, you know, that's the kind of real-life examples that we have to do. Hey, Lindsay, surrounding yourself with great, knowledgeable, helpful people should definitely be part of the plan. Ah, yes, yes, and that is huge. So you guys, I had so many amazing conversations today. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited because a friend of mine had connected me with a handful of her friends, and we've been starting to now connect via email, and now we're starting to get on the phone with each other, and it's just been amazing. And today there was a couple calls, and it's just been the conversations I've been having with people, both here inside my community and through connections. You guys, I'm like, I'm going to say, I've said this before, you guys are probably like, Ed, this is a broken record, but it's like Christmas morning all day long. I'm just like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And it's so awesome. And what's cool about these connections is we're going to have some really amazing special guests come on the show. I mean, everyone's amazing, but we're going to have some really cool people that they're just doing amazing things that I can't wait to share with you guys. So we're going to have them come on to the show. They're starting to book their guest requests, which, remember, you don't have to be doing anything crazy to become a guest. If you want to become a guest, you can. And the link in the post here will let you know about that, more information. But the conversations have been crazy. Today, worked with one of my clients. We had a great conversation there. In the Hey Ed community, we were talking about this, tying back into what Lindsay just said. about surrounding yourself with great, knowledgeable, helpful people, you do. Actually, I think that's what it was. All of this is tied together, and then during my break today, I did a Facebook, well, actually, it wasn't a Facebook Live, sorry. I told you I'm all over the place. It's a post on my personal Facebook page profile where I actually uploaded the video because I did it in Snapchat. Because, it's one of those things where it's like, I should do this live, but I want to make sure that I don't mess it up. So I'm going to do it in Snapchat first, and then if I like it, I'll do it and I'll upload it. So that's what I did. And so it's on my personal profile, and basically it's Find Your Space Today. So you'll see it if you really want it, or comment here and I'll share the post in the comments there. Make it easy for you guys. But it's super short. I think it's a minute long, and that's basically what I'm saying. Like, I don't care if it's my community, your family's community, your ex-coworkers community, your business coach community. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you find a space that you're comfortable in, that you have people that are surrounding you, that are at different levels, that provide knowledge and are willing to share and provide feedback and make you feel comfortable and point you in the right direction, and where you can actually go in and say, I am scared crapless right now about going on live, Facebook Live, but you know what? I feel safe in this community. I'm just going to do it. That's what you want. And that's the beauty of when you find those communities that you can be a part of, because sometimes there's multiple ones. But you really want to look at that and feel that out and understand that it's about finding that space that you feel comfortable in. And you guys have given that to me here on this show. I mean, everyone's always like, Ed, you're showing up 5 days a week, which may or may not change in the future, but from the start, 5 days a week, it's crazy. And people are like, really? That you do that? And you have things to talk about? And I'm like, yeah, mostly because I feel safe. I got my friends here. And I know that something I share during this time is going to help somebody. And they didn't have to pay for it, right? It's something that they can carry on with them and keep things moving. So again, it's part of your resources. It's part of your tools. It's part of utilizing your tools and resources to figure out what's your next step. What is your plan, and how are you going to go about it? So just keep that in mind. I hope this was good. I hope you guys learned something through this. Like I said, it was a little all over the place, but turned out to be, I think, pretty decent, right? We're always hard on ourselves. I did a Facebook Live last night, a personal one, and afterwards I was like, dang, I felt like I was just like blah 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 all the way through. And then I watched it over because I don't normally watch mine again, but I watched it over because I thought I said sounded really bad because I kept saying and all that. It actually wasn't that bad. I was like, okay. Because we got to remember, we're so hard on ourselves with everything. And that's just, especially as creatives, we will do that even more so than just your average Joe, right? But we have to remember that it's okay. It's okay. Just be present and observe, show up, deliver, and engage. That's all you need to do. So anyway, I'm going to stop yapping over here. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening, morning, depending on where you're at and what you're doing. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have a special guest on too. So don't forget to show up, and we will see you then. Take care.